Good afternoon. I am Adventure Argonaut. This is the Golden News, and we will be talking about the news. Of course, the war in Iran, and other stuff like that. That's going on in the world. But first, I have to check my streams. Are they all working? Are they all working? Uh, Wait, what? I just noticed Twitch. I tried to, update the title for my stream. This might conflict with Twitch's moderation policy. So, is it World War III continues? Is that the issue? How about WWJ continues? Is that allowed? No? Oh, retardation. That's okay, okay. Okay, how about retardation? Yes, alright. Fucking retarded Twitch. Go fuck yourself. We're too dumb. You can't use the word retarded because we are retarded. It offends me. Duh, fucking Twitch. Hey, Age of Double Hertz. Welcome. Welcome to my swearing stream. My stream for retarded people. Okay, but everything looks to be working. Let's move on to the first story. So of course, I'm gonna talk about the Iran war and stuff like that first. So it's gonna take a while again, but hopefully not as long as last time. So let's see what's going on with the war. U.S. commanders across more than 30 military bases told troops the Iran war is part of God's plan and linked it to Armageddon. The commander said Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon. The Military Religious Freedom Foundation says it has believed over 110 similar complaints describing the war as biblically sanctioned and a sign of the Christian end times. So I wonder if it's the commanders, do they really believe in this, or they're just saying it so that the soldiers would happily die for Israel? Is that it? Like, of course, I've heard of this sort of ideology before, but it's just like, do they really believe in it? Like, I can understand some random boomers who just, their only experience of the war is watching it on TV on their couch or something. Like they might believe in silly stuff like this, but do actually the commanders and generals and stuff believe this stuff? I don't know. Okay, let's move on to the next tab. Trump says we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain. Yeah, because Spain is refusing to join their board of peace, quote unquote, and the war, and they're not giving them military bases to use in the war. And of course, it makes sense for Spain simply strategically, because if they allow the Americans to use the bases, then the Iranians might attack them as well. La posición del gobierno de España ante esta coyuntura es clara, whatever. So let's see what the English says. Spain's position on Iran is clear. The same stance we have taken on Ukraine and Gaza. No to breaches of international law which protects us all, especially civilians. We reject the idea that the world can solve its problems through bombs. Let's not repeat past mistakes. No to war. Well, there's one war I do support with certain nation being the one being dismantled. The U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth talking in 2018 about the miracle of reconstructing the Third Temple of Solomon, the place where the Antichrist will be worshipped according to our Orthodox Christian faith. So does this guy really believe in it, and or like is it like because I personally find it hard to believe that like maybe this guy he believes that this gonna he believes it's gonna be the Antichrist who is their savior or something, and I think this is just for the masses to make it think this is actually about Jesus or something. An overwhelming poll just dropped, finding President Trump's MAGA Republican approval rating at 98%, with just 2% disapproving. Massive support for the base. Democrats keep thinking MAGA will abandon Trump. It's not happening. See, I think there's two different ways of looking at this because the numbers seem somewhat outrageous. So first is that maybe it's just fake. That's a good assumption, but then again, maybe because it says MAGA Republicans. Like if the questioner asks, "Are you MAGA?" and they say yes, and then do you approve of what Trump is doing in Iran or whatever? Then they say yes again. But it's like somebody who doesn't approve of what Trump has been doing recently, they wouldn't identify themselves as MAGA. So this might be true, but it just means like MAGA means that nowadays you approve whatever evil stuff Trump does. And Spain Prime Minister, 23 years ago, U.S. government dragged us into a war with Iraq, a war said to fight to eliminate Saddam Hussein's nuclear weapons and bring democracy, but no nuclear weapon was found in Iraq. You can't fool us twice. Yeah, it's like some like politicians that actually I don't know, like pay attention to basic reality and like refer to it later on. That's weird because usually politicians they're not meant to deal with truth, but narratives. A reporter, did the US bomb an elementary school and kill 175 people? Yeah, because apparently they did bomb a school in Iran with here it says 175. Somewhere I have heard it's like 160 girls who were killed. So anyway, Trump said, based on what I've seen, it was done by Iran. Reporter, is that true, Mr. Hegseth? Hegseth, we're investigating. Trump, it was done by Iran. They are very inaccurate with their munitions. Note, New York Times, CNN, and other outlets verified that the U.S. strikes targeted area of school. That area of school, hence Trump is lying. Yeah, and even Hegseth doesn't want to, say an outright lie. And this is so United States intelligence community continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khomeini has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. Tulsi Gabbard and signed March 2025, so a year ago. So did they start building the weapon like I don't know 6 months ago? How long does it take to make nuclear weapons? Don't know. It's been a while since I built my last nuke. Okay, there's videos. Tel Aviv has been hit hard and completely ablaze right now. Of course, you have to take these videos with a grain of salt. You can never be sure. Like, okay, here it doesn't say that, any community note saying that this actually took place in, I don't know, Jordan 7 years ago or something. But, like, that might be. And also, yeah, it doesn't show what's being damaged. So it's very, like, so far, it seems to be going fairly well for Iran, which is good in my opinion. But it's really hard to say what's really going on with the war. And here Korobochka says, if you're wondering why you're not getting any direct information about the strikes across the Middle East, so this is some safety from Twitter or Xitter. An update of how X maintains safety of X in times of crisis. It's weirdly phrased. As a part of X's incident response protocol, X initiated proactive manual sweeps to identify and remove violative content in less than 3 hours from the initial strikes. These sweeps have been running 24/7 since the response was initiated and are supplemented by working group meetings bringing together experts across our company. X is actively scaling its enforcement by building heuristics and grok-based defenses that can detect and enforce against new forms of violative content that emerge on the platform. The defenses allow us to scale at speed, ensuring our users are protected in real time. Additionally, conflict-related community notes that have been shown on more than 20K posts and have been seen more than 190 million times so far and still growing. X applies media matching to ensure notes written on misleading videos and images are automatically applied to other posts with matching media. X's incident crisis response are robust protocols designed and tested for events that may lead to widespread proliferation of potentially violative content on the platform. We continue to monitor trends on X and ensure content is authentic and users are engaging safely. How fucking dangerous can it be just to, look at pictures and images and text on screen? Oh my god. So yeah, lots of people are saying that Twitter is being censored when it comes to the war, that it's very limited, and I've certainly seen lots of news about the war, but yeah, I guess when you think about it, there should be much more about it. Like I've seen more comments of people talking about it, like people saying comments that I agree with because we're corralled into their echo chambers, but still actual facts about the war, they are sort of scarce, and I guess this safety algorithm is supposedly part of the censorship process. After 1 week after the war on Iran began, Trump announces mass deportations aren't happening. So what does he actually say here?
We have a lot of heart. They said, you gotta lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels, and we're looking to get the criminals out right now.
So yeah, he doesn't want to deport illegals. I'm just my brain is malfunctioning. What he said in the end is we're looking to get rid of the criminals, but if they are illegally in the country, then they are criminal. Like, of course, yeah, there's a difference between somebody whose only crime is to be there illegally and somebody who keeps committing crimes. Like, sure, there's a difference, but still, it's so yeah, keep supporting ICE, and they will just deport you because you don't like Israel. That's what it was always about, and but people don't really. They just want a quick solution instead of looking to the root of the problem. I'm gonna talk about that stuff later on, but anyway, Iran strikes U.S.-linked oil tanker in Strait of Hormuz. Okay, once again, can't know for sure what's going on here, but yeah, we see a tanker on fire or some sort of cargo ship. U.S. committed a blatant and desperate crime by attacking a freshwater desalination plant on Keshem Island. I think that's in Iran. Water supply in 30 villages has been impacted. Attacking Iran's infrastructure is a dangerous move with grave consequences, and the U.S. set this precedent, not Iran. Well, yeah, it's sort of like, the Allies in World War II, nukes and firebombs, I think those were by Americans as well. They're okay, but, whatever the other side did, that's a war crime. That's how they've been operating for nearly a century now. But the US is supposed to be the good guys. Holy shit, catastrophic morning for Trump. Strait of Hormuz basically shut down, oil prices surging. 92k jobs lost in February, worst since the pandemic. Yeah, because they were expecting like 50,000 jobs in America, like to be more, but they actually lost that many. Markets crashing at $2 trillion gone this week. Trump eased sanctions on Russian oil. They found out Russia is helping fund Iran. So yeah, they eased sanctions on Russian oil, and then Russia is helping fund Iran. So then they are helping Russia help their enemy. The guy who wanted to be peace president just walked into a war he can't end, an economy that's breaking, an ally he can trust, and a job market that just collapsed all in the same week. This is spiraling. Yeah, I'm sort of enjoying it in a perverse way because everything is burning already. At least like if everything has to burn to the ground, if they make nice patterns like if they burn down aesthetically, I guess that's something. Did Trump just trigger the most self-defeating chain of events in modern history? Israel drags U.S. into war with Iran. Oil surges in price, troops die. Trump panics, lifts Russian sanctions so India can buy more oil. Russia uses money to help Iran. We funded our enemy. Yeah, basically the same stuff, but little bit a different take. An earthquake of magnitude 4.1 strikes Iran today. This is the second earthquake in just 1 week in Iran. So yeah, some people are saying that perhaps this means that they are doing like they are doing nuclear tests in Iran, and that's why there's these quakes. Or I suspect like of course this could just be a coincidence, but or maybe Americans are testing some sort of earthquake weapon, but they haven't been able to, I don't know, make a proper quake yet. Or I don't know if such technology exists, but certainly it has been speculated on many occasions that it does. Okay, apocalyptic scenes from Tehran tonight. Never seen something like this. Yeah, so I think this is like some oil refineries on fire or something, and yeah. Mm. And scenes out of Tehran, Iran following U.S. Israeli airstrikes on IRGC base. So what the hell did the Americans use? I don't know. Yeah, it. You could be fool somebody to think this is a nuke, but it's probably not. And United Arab Emirates declares war on Iran. A strike was carried out according to Ynet. So UAE strikes a water desalination plant in Iran. I don't know how it's gonna go for UAE. Probably not too well either, unless Iran is vastly unprepared for the war. But at least so far they seem like they've been preparing for it for a long while, and they should have because Israel has been claiming they have the nuke for like 40 years at least. The kids in the school hit by U.S. strike killing 165 was marked on a Pentagon strike map. The map shown by U.S. Secretary of Defense indicates the school was listed as a target. The attack was deliberate. And I think they also shot or bombed, missiled the school twice to make sure that they're all dead there, because these are the good guys, right? Oh yeah, and then this probably should have put this in a later Epstein section, but whatever. Trump raped his daughter Ivanka, and Jared Kushner still works for him. How Jewish? So yeah, there's rumors that relating to Epstein stuff that Trump. Well, actually, there have been rumors about it like already for 10 years. There's some, old pictures of Trump and Ivanka when she was still a girl that, the way he's holding her is a bit sus, but anyways. Was this time to subpoena Trump? Uh, so what is this? Yeah, that probably should be also in the Epstein section later on, but whatever. So somebody, such a short name, let's call her Amy. Amy could not recall the identities of other individuals present, however, they all exited when Trump asked everyone to leave the room. Trump mentioned something to the effect of, "Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be." Trump unzipped his pants and put somebody's head down on his penis. Okay, I don't want to read all this stuff, but it's like, of course, it's unclassified, but like confidential, but now it's unclassified, I guess. Trump and Epstein sometimes use terms fresh meat, untainted, not jaded, while referring to girls. Like, it could be true, or it may be made up, or who knows. So anyway, imagine being Trump. Netanyahu tells you to attack Iran, you refuse. Mossad drops a teaser from Epstein files labeling you a pedophile, you attack Iran. Netanyahu pushes for a false flag against the GCC, you refuse. Today, files drop you raped a 13-year-old girl. So I don't know how reliable this information in this document is or not, but certainly, if actual law enforcement officers exist anywhere, they should verify. Iran just hit and destroyed a major underground shelter in Tel Aviv used only by Israeli leadership. So no idea, whether this is true or whether anybody died or who died and so forth. Trump and gas prices. If they rise, they rise. Like, what is he, Ivan Drago? If he dies, he dies. UAE officially denies the US to use its airspace against Iran. So wait, are they at war with Iran, or are they helping US or helping Iran against US? Not sure. Yeah, at least according to Grok, it's confirmed that they don't. So I don't know really what's going on. I'm not there, so hard to say. Senate votes in favor of Iran war. So yeah, democracy doesn't matter. Like, he started the war undemocratically, but doesn't matter because they vote for it anyway. Rand Paul is the only Republican senator to vote against Iran war. Yeah. Yeah, I do hope, like, I know it won't change things for the better, but I certainly hope that, in the next US election, Republicans lose and it means Democrats win. But, that's why this whole system is crooked, and maybe you shouldn't really care about either. But it's like, I don't know, they've screwed their voter base more than like ever, anybody ever. With an asterisk, there's probably still might be even worse examples, but still it's quite badly. Anyway, Iran has hit Kuwait's social security building and is on fire after a reported drone strike. Okay. Iranian media shared a Lego animation called Narrative of Victory. No confirmation of the original creator of this video. Lego will not be happy. Jeffrey Epstein for. I guess it's sort of funny to see Lego. I haven't watched the whole video even. Not gonna show all of it here, but it's sort of. I guess it's sort of creative, like sort of because it's Lego. It's sort of like taking something innocent and making it, I don't know, sinister in this way. Anyway, chaos at Ben Gurion Airport in Israel as people are trying to flee. Passengers got angry, check-in counters closed, clashes broke out with police, they all want to leave the promised land suddenly. Like, of course, this could be some, event from 2 years ago, not related to any war or anything, who knows. But no, Okay, this guy says it's fake, or she says filmed at Denver International Airport, United States. Let's see. Sarah, do you have developmental disability? Yeah, it says something in Hebrew. Yeah, yeah, I doubt it's in Denver. So, but it's probably true then if there's like some, and if it's fake, there should be a community note, right? Because some people are so adamant on debunking it, so surely they would make a community note. Asmongold on America bombing a school in Iran, which killed 150 plus people. Maybe they shouldn't have been funding terror groups and antagonizing America. What the hell did you expect? Yeah, it's the school children who did all of that. Uh, and also, there's some other clip of Asmongold, like I think he was saying that killing medics in war is cool, and somebody compared to him like or said that his concept of war comes from video games, and yeah, that's when I heard the claim. I thought of Team Fortress 2, and the combo of the medic and the heavy, and like yeah, you want to kill the medic if you can, but yeah, it's a video game, yeah. So it's like please don't take Asmongold's takes too seriously. He doesn't really know much. He's saying stuff either for money or for attention, and sometimes some of the stuff he says is actually quite reasonable, and I agree with it, but sometimes like now it's clear that somebody is encouraging him to be a war hawk on the behalf of Israel, which is sad. And isn't he supposed to be rich? Why does he have to sell out still? US, so yeah, it was this Bahrain is now free from USA. The king has gone. US used its bases in Bahrain to attack Iran. Bahrain has 50% Shia with a Sunni ruler, so Iran is Shia, but majority of Muslims in the world are Sunni, and it seems like Shias are the more based ones because I would call Shia the most based religion in the world currently because they are the only ones actually fighting against actual evil. Anyway, Shias, but I don't know what the actual difference is, like the doctrinal differences and stuff. Don't know. Anyway, Shias revolted against the king. King fled the country. Bahrain has been freed. The same will happen in other GCC countries. Iran is about to become the king of Middle East. Maybe it's a bit optimistic way of looking at it, but like I that would be good, I guess. I think Iran deserves to become an empire because once again, like it's not that I wouldn't agree with all of their policies, but they're one of the one country in the world actually doing something. Like everybody's been bitching about war in Iraq and Epstein and all of that. Like everybody's been bitching about that stuff for a few decades, but very few people are actually doing something about it. Iranians just torched another child sacrifice god Baal statue. Burning Baal is peak anti-Semitism. I guess it is. There's also like some obelisk, like Egyptian stuff. An earthquake of magnitude 4.3 strikes garage in Iran, reports Al Jazeera. So yeah, it's another earthquake around 4. For what's the unit? My man is blank. I was thinking Pascal, but that's not it. Richter, right? Richter Belmont should be the Belmont scale. So yeah, it probably means something, but it's still guesses so far. He ran a nuclear scientist right now. I am become death destroyer of worlds, but I don't know if it means that they're developing a nuke or not. And the Epstein regime bombed this, so this is is it a church or a mosque or something in Iran? It looks like okay, maybe a bit too ostentatious, but still, certainly nicer than brutalism and corporate crap. So, and this video, if it actually being bombed, it was presumably taken before the attack, so I hope it's not too badly destroyed or anything. Furious Marco Rubio admits Israel forced US into war with Iran, the worst possible thing. And there's Mel Gibson.
How horrible does he think they were? I read to him the officer's account of the words he used that night. Expletive Jews. And to Officer me, are you a Jew? And
the Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world. Are those anti-Semitic words?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
how horrible.
She asked, are they anti-Semitic words, but she didn't ask, are they true? Has anybody debunked his claim yet? So Iran has figured it out. Burn Baal statue and it will weaken the state of Israel, right? I think maybe it's worth trying. Every country that opposes this stuff should make a statue of Baal and burn it. Of course, maybe it's going to be the reverse and we're going to summon Baal into the world. So there's a risk, but maybe. It's just, I've been playing Rogue Trader Warhammer 40k and it just, reminds me of chaos. It's same kind of stuff. It's really, Iranian Marines fighting against the forces of chaos. They hit the oil refineries that feed Tehran. Thousands of labor workers burnt alive, families burned in their homes, toxic fumes and fire rolling over a city of 9 million people. 2 days ago, they hit the burn treatment center, so even if it's still open, it cannot be operating at full capacity. They bombed the airport, so families cannot even send burned injured out for treatment. Burning fuel is running through the rain canals like a river of fire, scorching trees, leaving the walls of houses beside it, turning ordinary streets into hell. This is the real face of United States and Israel, yes. Morgo says this post claims that Israel is targeting burn treatment centers, and Grok verified it in the replies. So, okay. Iranian farmer in a small town. During this war situation, potatoes are free for people in need. This is very anti-Semitic behavior. That's all I'm gonna say. Living under the Epstein regime has you thinking it's normal behavior to jack up your prices in a time of crisis. Yeah. I can understand if luxuries or something go up, the price in a time of crisis because of scarcity and stuff. But yeah, there's difference between just trying to nickel and dime others and and actually I don't know, being a decent human being. Switzerland criticizes U.S.-Israeli campaign against Iran as a violation of international law. So any other European nations said anything except Spain, of course, and Switzerland. The New York Times claims the White House is reportedly planning to announce the end of kinetic strikes on Iran. Looks like Trump just checked the oil price. So not sure whether it's actually happening or not. Yeah. And of course, if he's planning to, it might be true that he was planning it a couple of days ago, but maybe he's decided, okay, I'm not gonna end the strikes. Mosques occupied in Iran are handing out weapons to their followers. When I tell you that mosques in occupied Iran are hubs for terrorism and should be destroyed, this is what I'm talking about. But there's a counterpoint. Imagine a world where Christian churches cared as much about the Second Amendment or ethnic survival as Shia Islam. I see what Napoleon and Hitler meant when they said they envied Islam. But doesn't Jesus say at some point sell your cloak and buy a sword or something? So even Christianity could justify this sort of stuff if my memory serves me correct. But it's like any religion, there's many sects and denominations, and you can try to justify very like opposite kind of beliefs based on the circumstances if you really want to. Professor Jiang claims Israelis were burning their own homes in Tel Aviv during airstrikes to collect insurance money. Yeah, because I saw claims that Israelis were supposedly burning their own homes, and I guess this explanation makes sense. And also, I should mention like this Professor Jiang. Like I heard about him yesterday, I think. Like suddenly everybody was talking about it, and I watched a few of his videos on YouTube and stuff, and I guess it's like reasonable. He makes more sense than most people, at least. But like I still think it's weird, sort of weird how suddenly like everybody was talking about it. But of course then there's the other side that people who are saying that uh, you know that he's basically put there to push some sort of propaganda and stuff. And I don't know. I just find it weird. But it's like, yeah. Trump just admitted we can't get out of this war without Israel's permission. That's what he means when he says the war ends with me and Netanyahu come to a mutual decision. Operation Jukakt. Well, yeah, I guess that's what it implies if Trump actually did say that. So when they come to a mutual decision. UK has just 2 days worth of stored gas, Daily Mail. Will then be forced to buy abroad at the highest price in Europe. Spain already seeing huge lines at gas stations, all of this thanks to Trump. So if this is true, like I think UK really deserves to suffer for it, because how fucking retarded, like there's also the case that hasn't Europe been very energy dependent on Russia for a long time, even though they've also viewed Russia even before the Ukraine war as sort of unfriendly and stuff. Like Germany also very anti-Russia, Russia, but they got rid of their nuclear power plants and everything, and then they buy their energy from Russia, right? It's like, how fucking retarded do you have to be to do that? Like, at least stick to it. Either be like, we don't care, Russia is our friend, just give us cheap energy, or produce it yourself. Because this is something I realized when I was a fucking teenager, that basically every province, however you define that in a country, should be somewhat self-sufficient. Because if there is war or natural disaster and you cannot get the like supplies the energy from, well, not from abroad, but like not even from another province in your own country, that they should could at least live like let's say Amish level of technology. Like even if you don't have electricity, you should be able to produce some food and basic supplies, so people can at least survive a few months before hopefully things are restored. But like it goes squarely against like this globalized world, that everything has to be interconnected. And like there's this million like spider webs, like threads of spider web stuck together, but then you cut off one of them and then it all starts to crumble. And this is like, how fucking retarded. Like if this is true, like if they only have 2 days of gas or anything like that, like how can you fucking be? Why haven't the people done anything about it? Like surely there's people who understand these things much better than me, and they should have been shouting from the rooftops like, this is retarded. That how can they let this happen like this? Like I can understand that you're basic consumer who only thinks like, oh, it's convenient, I can buy food from the supermarket, so I can I don't know, because today I don't know what I will want to eat tomorrow, so I only buy food for one day. Like some people do that. But it's like what if next day the supermarket isn't open anymore because of whatever circumstances? Are you gonna starve then? And it might work for some individuals, but like a society cannot function like that, not in the long run, because eventually there's gonna be war or a disaster or something, and everything's gonna go fuck it, and fucking deserve it. Mexicans have burned a statue of Baal in front of the U.S. embassy. I try to rant less, but it is difficult because I feel like I'm the only adult in the room, even though I'm not the most adult person out there. President Putin orders Russian government to evaluate halting energy supplies to Europe. Europe can't last more than 50 days, so I really hope he does that. Like Europe deserves to starve, suffer because they're so fucking retarded. They let it, they destabilize, dismantle their own energy production for whatever reason, and I know it doesn't help the environment, and it's a noble goal if you really care about not polluting stuff, but that's not what they're actually doing. So yeah, I hope all of Europe has to surrender to Russia, and it's not like I love Russia or anything, but it's just retarded. Wait, I have to go check on my son. I'll be right back. Okay, my wife is on it because she's here now. Okay, South Park writer calls for Baron Trump to be drafted to war with distasteful website. Is it distasteful? Because people are saying, since Trump wants war so much, he should draft Baron Trump. He's 19 or 20 years old right now, so yeah, he should be in the front lines, which makes sense. And my initial reaction to seeing this is like, hey, it's funny, but it's also a bit pathetic, because if this is all people can do, they can make fun of the elite, quote unquote, destroying the world. It reminds me of during the Bush era and all his wars, and I was against all that from the get-go, but it's like at some point I began to sympathize more with Bush than a lot of the champagne socialists opposing the war, because they had new Woodstock festival and rock against Bush and stuff. It's like it was like they were LARPing. They were their boomer parents in the 60s or something against Vietnam War, and instead of actually doing something to prevent wars from happening or to punish Bush and his cohorts for the wars, no, they just doing antics like this. And it's like this sort of parody and stuff has its place, but there should be more. David Giglio, whoever that is, says Joe Biden was literally retarded vegetable, and Benjamin Netanyahu couldn't get him to do his bidding in Iran. Take from that what you will. It's like, perhaps, but it's like, Biden wasn't really in charge anyway, so whoever was, the puppet master pulling his strings literally, why couldn't Netanyahu get him to do his bidding then? Okay, now we get to, I'm gonna shit on America a bit. So somebody said on some basket weaving forum, I literally just want foreigners out. I don't have any other politics. And Mr. Reply Guy says, I would tolerate war with Iran if I actually got mass deportations. So it sort of reminds me of the Benjamin Franklin quote, somebody who would give up freedom for security deserves neither, or however. I think it was Benjamin Franklin. And so yeah, it's basically Reply Guy here is saying that he would tolerate wars for Israel and also the Epstein class pedophile elite if he got mass deportations, because he doesn't really want to fix the problem. And this is why the problem keeps getting worse and worse, because they don't want to get to the root of the affair, and that's why everything sucks, because that's how majority of people think nowadays. And I'm not claiming it's gonna be easy, but if you want to fix something, you actually have to fix it and not just make cosmetic changes. Like voting every 4 years or something. And Mr. Sausage says, I'm just going to say this out loud. Russia has its problems, but it is a breathtaking majority Christian and very conservative nation. They should be our natural ally. And I think we here refers to America. But I would say, like, no, if Russia is a Christian and conservative nation, they certainly should not ally themselves with America, because America is not a Christian, not at least in the same sense as Russia, and not a conservative nation. America has been a puppet of Israel for almost 100 years now, and promoting all sorts of LBG stuff. Well, that's been like a couple of decades, but still, that they haven't been promoting conservatism or Christianity, not by a long shot. So yeah, Russia should stay away from America. Don't become a friend of America. This guy said, how much do you want to bet Trump will be more forceful drafting young Zoomers for the Iran war than he will be deporting illegal immigrants? We'll be dragged right out of our homes and deported to the front lines, starting to wish I was Mexican. Well, yeah, rings back to the Vietnam War and all these, people who fled America to Canada or Europe. Even I had like a lecturer in university in Finland, like American guy who, I think he first fled to UK and then he ended up in Finland and stuff. And he was an interesting guy. But anyways, like this is like, and as much as I hate boomers and despise what they've how they ruined the world, but like at least like back then it was newer thing, so I can more excuse them just fleeing. But like, how about Americans arresting their pedophile ruling class, whether it's Republican or Democrat, throwing them in oubliettes and like putting somebody in charge who doesn't start these wars and who doesn't molest children? And how is like America is supposed to be the country with the gun behind every blade of glass, no blade of grass, and watering the tree of liberty, all these fucking memes I've grown up also listening to, even though I'm not Americans, like, but I guess that means nothing. It's only talk. Like it never meant anything at all. So how about starting to do something? Like America has been the same longer than I've been alive, longer than most of us. Like why can't they do something to change it? And doing something means more than just voting every 4 years. And here's Anachet Concrete Island. That's a weird name. Sorry, USA citizens, but you are all guilty as the Israelis. You watched the Gaza genocide. You are watching Palestine, Tehran, and Lebanon burn. What the fuck are you doing to stop your government? Exactly. That. Like, I can understand that, yes, you feel powerless and all that stuff. But like, if it's really, so many Americans who are against this, couldn't they sort of collude together to fix the problem? Like, either it's a small minority, and hey, I'm not saying all Americans, but a great deal of them clearly don't really care. And America quite literally lit the country on fire during quarantine for George Floyd, yet sits still when the Epstein files implicate all our political elite. At least Iran has the balls to light ball on fire. Exactly. And there's this meme, why isn't anyone protesting the Epstein files? Because no one is paying them to protest that. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pay $10, not individually, but I'm gonna put $10 to a pool so Americans start protesting their pedophile elite and the Iran war and stuff. So hey, let's get a pool together. Can we get Americans to actually do something? Use those guns that they really love. And they like to shit on Europe because you don't have guns, you have tyranny. And hey, I'm not gonna disagree with that statement, but like, is America any better? No, they're worse. If they have their guns, but still they don't use it to, against the tyrants, all that, what the Constitution and the founding fathers were all about, but it means nothing. It's just words. And Kim Jong-un feeling upset he's no longer the world's craziest dictator. He's not even top 3 anymore. I guess, well, yeah, let's read this comment first. Pastor Who. This guy has done nothing to, I sort of like his name if it's like a reference to Doctor Who. Anyway, this guy has done nothing to threaten the world peace, but somehow he's tagged a crazy dictator. See, that's why he's the crazy dictator, because he actually hasn't done anything. Like sure, there are some, warlike rhetoric that comes out of North Korea every now and then, but it's not like they've done much. There's some skirmishes between them and South Korea, but whatever. Meanwhile, the ones who caused more deaths in history with their bombs are called the leaders of the free world. We live in a simulation where nothing is real. Yeah, basically. All right. Then let's finally move from Iran to Epstein stuff. So yeah, Epstein. Apparently him and others like him, they also suppressed science, so which is one reason why you really can't trust anything they tell you. US DOJ releases new email allegedly claimed that Donald Trump had inappropriate sex with his daughter Ivanka Trump. What is appropriate sex with your daughter? Maybe I shouldn't ask. Yeah. So this Trump said okay, Richard Kahn, I think, is he the sender? And he sent to Epstein, porn star. Trump said I reminded him of Ivanka after sex. Of course, doesn't necessarily mean that he had sex with her, but it's weird to say this of your daughter nevertheless. But of course it's somebody else saying it, so maybe it could be fake. Just trying to play devil's advocate here, almost literally now. The devil part, I mean. Yeah, had inappropriate sex. Are you Indian? And inappropriate. Yeah, damn, I didn't even notice. Yeah. Okay, this is the same email. Yeah, it's from Richard Cohn to Jeffrey Epstein. And Bill Clinton admits under oath that he was closer to Ghislaine Maxwell than Jeffrey Epstein because of her close relationship with the Rothschild family. She was very good friends with Evelyn Rothschild and his wife Lynn, whom I knew and I was in regular touch with. Pay attention to Clinton's lawyer on the left when he starts to name the Rothschilds.
And for the record, why was that?
Because I had seen her more and because she was very good friends with Evelyn Rothschild and his wife Lynn, whom I knew and was in regular touch with.
Is the lawyer like, he wants to say like, shut up or we will kill you, but since the other lawyer got caught doing similar stuff, so he cannot say anything. Of course, it might not mean anything, like his behavior, I mean, but since as the shadow of Ezra, he has said to pay attention. So anyways. So yeah, has anybody investigated Rothschild for anything, done anything since the mustache man who actually arrested at least one or maybe few of them. Unfortunately, he let them go, but at least did something. Like they're very close with the U.S. presidents, British royals and stuff. But you're not supposed to acknowledge that they're just rich people, and and even the left is eat the rich, but oh no, don't eat the Rothschilds. They're because you'll be anti-Semitic, and even though even the left despises Israel, but somehow Rothschilds they are beyond reproach. And Jeffrey Epstein said, I have met Some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous. So I've commented on this before, but it could, you could take it two different ways. Either that because Epstein, who was a bad guy himself, or is, if he's still alive, so if he says that Trump is a bad guy, then it means that Trump is a good guy, or maybe if Jeffrey, who was already a bad guy, thinks that Donald Trump is even worse, then yeah, Donald Trump should be really bad then. And this is Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed a week ago or so, and he said this just a few weeks ago before his death. This island of corruption is only one example. There is much more of this, just as this was not apparent and then became exposed. There are many other things that will soon come to light. I hope so. Of course, he was talking about the Epstein Island. At least I presume so. Epstein victim says she has tapes of Donald Trump doing things that will force him to resign from the presidency. Okay, if you have that, then do release them, please. Like, because I doubt any stuff like that will force him to resign. Like perhaps, fucking up the war or something like that might get him impeached or forced to resign, but I don't think the establishment will force him to resign because of any sex crimes he has committed or allegedly committed. DOJ admits 47,635 Epstein files, including Trump allegations, were removed. So why were they removed? I wonder. Oh, it's nothing, just Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Thiel discussing the creation of a secret society. So from somebody to Jeffrey Epstein. So Peter Thiel loved the secret society idea. He has done a lot of work on the concept, all failed so far. Unlike what Liam here seems to be noting, I think this secret society, because they're talking about this openly, sort of like, teenage boys trying to have some fun, this is probably just some, a bit of fun, because they already have their secret society. I don't know if they have any particular name for it, but it's like, this whole community of Epstein and his clients and accomplices, that's certainly de facto secret society. So I don't think this is like, some real, but he already lived like eyes wide shut kind of life, Epstein and his people. So it's like, them playing around with this, that this isn't a smoking gun, in my opinion. Epstein reportedly got Congress to cancel the funding for a scientist named Stanley Pons, who was researching cold fusion and getting results according to leaked emails. Epstein influenced Congress to kill his funding, and other scientists discredited him by trying to recreate his work but doing it incorrectly so they could claim it never worked. This is very similar to the Fallout TV show plot where scientists invest cold fusion, Vault-Tec buys out her company, labels her a communist, blacklists her, and discredits her. Okay, haven't seen the Fallout show. But yeah, from Epstein to Al Seckel, regarding cold fusion, I killed Pons years ago. And how did you kill him? There's still a group of these guys going strong. So yeah, I don't think it's meant to be literal that he killed him literally, but just that, he killed his reputation or something. And I do recall seeing some, like a video on YouTube like 15 years ago or so that, some sort of science board, they were voting on like nuclear fusion that, basically said that, oh, we don't believe that this works, so okay, we're going to shut down the research or something, which was weird. So I don't know if it's related to this Pons guy or not. And okay, this man single-handedly destroyed science as an institution. Okay, that sounds a little bit like exaggeration, but not without merit though. His name was Robert Maxwell, and he was the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. He turned scientific knowledge into a commodity, locked it behind a paywall, created a system which breeds authoritarian conformist scientists who are terrified to challenge established dogma. His system weaponized science for elite control. British Jew media tycoon Mossad agent. He was the first to turn scientific publishing into a ruthless commercial business locked behind steep paywalls. In 1951, he founded Pergamon Press, which launched hundreds of niche scientific journals, each a tiny monopoly in its field, demanding expensive subscriptions. Overnight, freely available public domain scientific knowledge became gated behind high costs, accessible only to an intellectually elite class, the new intelligentsia. He called this setup a perpetual financing machine, and it became the template for the entire industry today. The commercial monopoly on science extracts free labor from scientists who work tirelessly to write papers, review work, and edit manuscripts to further their career prospects, all at no cost. The profit margins for scientific journals far exceed almost every other industry. The top publisher margins are higher than Google and Apple. Elsewhere, for Elsevier, for example, brought in $1.4 billion profit in 2024 alone. This is a huge business which artificially inflates the cost of knowledge dissemination that is ironically funded in large part by the taxpayer. Unfortunately, the entire business model incentivizes volume over quality, careers, grants, and promotions tied to publication count in prestigious, high-fee journals. This means that researchers are penalized for publishing less and are instead rewarded for pumping out high quantity and with little inherent value. Just I have to interject because I recall, the replication crisis in science that they've been talking about like 5 to 10 years at least, that was it like a more than half of scientific studies or research that it cannot be really replicated, which is supposed to be the basis of science. Like if you do an experiment, somebody should be able to replicate it and get the same experiment, but nowadays it seems that great deal of these scientific experiments are fake and gay. In other words, there are tangible benefits for publishing junk science, manipulated data, and fabrication. This model disincentivizes and actively punishes genuine scientific curiosity, independent thinking, long-term risky work, and controversial opinions or lines of research which challenge established dogma. It's like, yeah, I've been, when I was a university student, I wasn't a researcher or anything, but it's like, yeah, I, couldn't have formulated the argument in this eloquently, but still it's like, yeah, it was obvious. But the sad thing is that most people seem fine with it. The reason why these Robert Maxwells are able to do this shit is that most people are just too dumb to see that there's something wrong with it. They just go along with whatever the authority tells them to. Anyway, it breeds authoritarian, conformist, self-censoring scientists who are averse to risk. Furthermore, it laid out the foundation for a gated elite class of intelligentsia. Only those in the club at wealthy scientific institutions who toe the party line are granted access to scientific knowledge. Those who stray too far from the norm are shunned and expelled. The ultimate result: a bloated generic mass of low-rigor, irreproducible papers. This model, which still dominates to this day, facilitated the cooperation and weaponization of science. What began as a relentless pursuit for truth was co-opted and sacrificed for endless greed and elite control of knowledge itself. Yeah. And well, even the term academia is like, some Greek, like a religious thing from Athens or something, like some sort of religious institution. It's like, academia hasn't been about science and facts basically ever. Anyway, Scottsdale, Arizona just arrested 202 people who were involved in child sex trafficking and minor prostitution. Despite announcing this bust, neither names or faces, it should be, it says names of the faces, but names or the faces of those involved have been released. Over and over again, those that are caught trafficking prostituting children have their faces protected. Federal law stipulates that their mugshots are not released to the public. Why? Probably because people would start to notice certain kind of like patterns in the length of their noses and the types of hats they are wearing. That's my guess. So what's this? Not only did Sandy Berger fly to Epstein Island 2 weeks after his conviction, apparently one day after his sentencing on September 8, 2005, for stealing and destroying some National Archive documents relating to 9/11, Jeffrey Epstein overnighted Sandy Berger a FedEx package which was signed for the next morning. So Sandy Berger flew to Epstein Island on a flight purchased by Jeffrey Epstein in 2005, 2 weeks after being sentenced to 100 hours of community service after illegally removing highly classified documents from the National Archives relating to 9/11 and intentionally destroying. So only 100 hours of community service, like doesn't have to go to jail or anything for that. Not corrupt at all. And yeah, I had to look it up because it seemed too insane to be real. Yeah, literally went to install a bunch of 9/11 documents, delivered them to Epstein. Got 2 years probation for it. Typically, this level of espionage is considered treason. What the fuck? Okay, yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of this before. Like, this is the kind of people that have been allowed to roam free, and the fucking normie boomers call it, oh, you're a stupid conspiracy theorist. Like, well, this sort of stuff happens. And so apparently this was, I've never heard about this before, at least don't recall. And this is like, doesn't it pretty much like, very strongly imply that they had something to hide about 9/11, that perhaps it wasn't just bin Laden and his cronies living in a cave in Afghanistan. Like maybe there's something else going on. But no, that's stupid. That's so boring. Like, oh, so boring. Like, what was his name? Noam Chomsky said, like, 9/11 truth is so boring. Just don't look into it and be a boomer. Come on. In 1951, the CIA secretly translated a Soviet article, "Parasites and cancer behave almost identically biochemically. The same anti-worm drugs, Mirasil D, quinine analogs, killed both bilharzia and tumors in the lab. The Americans knew. They read it, classified it confidential, and locked it in a safe for 60 years. I've heard, similar claims on the internet before, like not about this document, that that cancer is actually parasites, or like all the major diseases are parasites. And I don't know whether that is true, but perhaps it's something that we should be looking into more. But alas, we don't have actual scientific institutions in the world. We have facsimiles, institutions that pretend and do a little bit of science, but not actual scientific institutions. So yeah, Trump posted this Save America Act. All voters must show voter ID. All voters must show proof of citizenship. No mail-in ballots. No men in women's sports. Yeah, whatever. But it's 5. No transgender mutilation surgery for children without express written approval of the parents. So I think at first it was just number 5 was no transgender mutilation surgery for children, and then later he added this, without the express written approval of the parents. So if your parents want to mutilate their child, is fine. Yeah, people are not happy with this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm absolutely done. The war is bad enough, but giving in to Democrats on transing children is enough to lose me forever. If the GOP supports transing minors with sick mentally ill parents' consent, I'm registering as an independent. My only policies are Jesus. Yeah. Like, what has Trump, some of these people, like, I don't care about this or that policy, just give me my own thing that I care about. Like, has Trump given people anything? And the reason that people kept keep getting screwed over because they stand with it. Like they just they bargain with the devil and get the short end of the stick. Whoa, what a surprise. Shocked Pikachu face. US votes 357 to 65 to block release of congressional sexual misconduct report. So I just wonder how many of the Congress members are sex pests or have committed sexual misconduct. Is it more than 80%? Probably. Okay, let's reload this. Massey said in December 2024, Congress has secretly paid out more than $17 million of your money to quietly settle charges of harassment, sexual and in other forms in congressional offices. Don't you think we should release names of the representatives? I do. Today, only 65 of us voted to release names of congressmen who have used the sexual harassment slush fund to pay of claims against them. 357 members voted to refer it to a committee, knowing that resolution they ain't making it out of committee. So yeah, Americans, you're not gonna vote your way out of this. Either you care about this sort of stuff or you don't. Like if you just keep voting, you're gonna have more sex criminals ruling your country and starting wars and transing your children. Trump DOJ abandons investigation into Biden's auto pen use after failing to find an applicable criminal statute. So yeah, he quite animated over this when this stuff came out like a year ago, but now he doesn't. Yeah, whatever. Because I think it was all an act that Trump and Biden my Biden stole my presidency. It was like no, he allowed Biden to steal the presidency. That was part of some sort of scam. I'm not quite sure why they did that. So what's this? Dear conspiracy theorists, sadly you were right again. Dr. Robert Malone declassified docs expose U.S. military releasing 282,800 radioactive chicks, sparking Lyme disease epidemic and 40-year cover-up. So yeah, because there's been the conspiracy theory about Lyme disease coming from Lyme Island and some government stuff. It's been around for a long time. U.S. military released, this many radioactive Lone Star chicks labeled with carbon-14 across Virginia sites along bird migration routes from 1966 to 69. Before the experiments, these chicks were not found north of Mason-Dixon line, but they soon established populations on Long Island for the first time. CIA operatives under Operation Mongoose 1962 dropped infected chicks on Cuban sugarcane workers via nighttime C-123 flights. One operative's infant son suffered a life-threatening 105 Fahrenheit degree fever, requiring emergency tracheotomy after family contamination. Yeah, I'm not going to read all that stuff, but yeah, so that's what Robert Malone here alleges. Not sure whether it's entirely correct or not, but that the U.S. government allegedly, there's allegedly new proof suggesting that the U.S. government is behind Lyme disease. All right, okay, but that's the end of Epstein and science stuff, and now we go to Blackrock, which might be cracking, like and economic stuff. So Blackrock might be dying, question mark. Over, is it $800 trillion? I was too big for my brain. Wiped out from the US stock market today. Good, I guess. And Blackrock is collapsing, says Nostra House of Gold. So Blackrock, $26 billion private credit fund limits withdrawals. So they don't allow their clients to withdraw their money if they want to. Let's reload this. Oh, that's loaded actually. Something big just happened. BlackRock just blocked investors from pulling their own money out. World's largest asset manager received 1.2 billion in withdrawal requests from its 26 billion private credit fund this quarter. Investors wanted about 9.3% of their money back. BlackRock blocked most of it. Withdrawals were capped at 5%. Only $620 million was paid out. The rest was locked. Nearly half the investors who wanted out were trapped, and it's not just BlackRock. Blackstone's similar fund saw a record 7.9 in redemption requests. They had to raise withdrawal limits and inject $400 million of their own money to keep it up. Blue Owl went even further. They stopped honoring withdrawals and replaced them with IOUs. Markets reacted immediately. BlackRock fell 5%. KKR, Carlyle, Apollo, Ares, Blue Owl, TPG all dropped 5 to 6% with it. Entire private credit sector sold off in a single day. These funds lend money through illiquid loans that cannot be quickly sold when too many investors try to leave at once. The cash simply isn't there. BlackRock also wiped out a $25 million loan, writing it down to zero after it was valued at full price just 3 months ago. Private credit is now $1.8 trillion industry. When the biggest funds in the world start blocking investors from getting their money back, it's not a small warning sign. Yeah. So yeah, and BlackRock has sold 143 million in dollars in Bitcoin. Is it? I think that's, or wait, is it, or like bill? I don't know. It's big number, too many zeros. Brain hurt. And Palantir CEO Peter Thiel just filed to sell over 2 million shares. What's happening? So is Palantir also dying? And so allegedly Iranian hackers are threatening to wipe out all the credit scores from top 3 credit companies and wipe out all the Americans' debt. No idea where this Susie Rizio got her information, but I hope he's correct or she's correct, but maybe not. Not sure. And Germany to withdraw all its gold stored at Fort Knox in USA. So Germany preparing to bring back all its gold from the United States amid concerns that the US is no longer a reliable partner. No, it's because there's probably no gold in Fort Knox. Maybe the only gold there is the gold watch of the director or whoever is in charge. Like Doge was supposed to do an audit, but then suddenly it was just, we kind of forgot, slipped past our mind. So yeah, but let's move on. Go to Japan, where there's, I guess, good news and bad news about. Well, let's look at the good news first. Tokyo court orders the dissolution of Unification Church, a genocidal cult that aims to race mix whites, Japanese, the satanic blood with Africans, Koreans, God's blood. Okay, to create a single unified global brown race. Trump and Takaicha also shill for them. So is that the belief? God wouldn't complain about the disappearance of the white race. God would be happier if he could find genuine human nature instead of genuine white person. Okay, it sounds very Jewish to me, and just put it out there. But if they actually are dissolving the church, that's good. Japanese court upholds order to dissolve Unification Church. Japanese court has upheld an order to dissolve the controversial Unification Church, local media report. Last year, the district court in Tokyo ordered the church disbanded after Japan's education and culture ministry accused it of manipulating followers into making huge donations. Like seeing institutions like that made me, yearn for the Albigensian crusade, because not all the crusades took place in the Middle East. Like sometimes heretics got it too, and hey, sometimes maybe the heretics were correct. I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but maybe a crusade against these people will be, and that's, I think, from the Albigensian crusade, the expression like let God sort them out, like Duke Nukem said, that's where it originates. So that's how they dealt with the problem. So the church, popularly known as Moonies, came under scrutiny after shock assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2022. So, okay, so it's because of that. I don't know, I'm not going to read all of that. So I hope they actually dissolve it, but of course, maybe they're just going to hide in Korea or something. Okay, what was this? Oh, yeah. So the government suspend Japanese Epstein investigation. So the investigation was the Japanese government planned to review U.S. DOJ Epstein docs, where Choi Ito's name appears multiple times, possible interview with him. Ito, president of Chiba Institute of Technology, sits on government committee for the Global Startup Campus project. On March 3rd, Science Minister Onoda ordered it. On March 5th, it was suspended after Ito denied any illegal ties. Knowledge of Epstein's crime said he'd resign from the committee by month's end. Government cited this statement resignation as making further action unnecessary. So yeah, Japan Minister of Economic Security Onoda covers up Epstein files. We will all end all investigations into Epstein files because it doesn't concern the Japanese. This just sounds like our real bosses told us to shut it down, so we did. And after 75 years, South Korea is moving to put an end to the Korean War, are proposing a treaty that would allow peaceful coexistence with North Korea. Korean War technically never ended and has just been paused for almost a century. I thought they sort of did that already, but I guess not, like, maybe 5 years ago or within the last 5 years, but I guess they didn't. The fact that this is coming after the US pulled its weapon systems from the region to focus on the Middle East is sending me into a giggling fit. Yeah. Okay, I think let's go to a new area. Well, this is just news from a few different places around the world, so no particular topic here. So Mexico mandates biometric SIM registration for all phone numbers. And who is their president? What's her ethnicity? Was she Korean? And heavy riot police deployed in Edinburgh tonight as locals flood the streets demanding immediate deportation of illegal immigrants. The police forces across Britain are traitors. And also there was some fire in Scotland at some point, and some claimed it was Israeli tourists who set the fire. I don't know whether that's true, and I had the tab marked, but I think it's been deleted, or something like that. Or sometimes it just doesn't work properly, like my tags or the bookmarks. So not quite sure about that. What's going on here? I thought I pressed the button. And the village of Wentworth, England banned kebab shops. The village enacted very strict planning controls to preserve their English heritage. All their village shops and food places are mandated to be traditional English to keep area peaceful and traditional. This is not racist. Maybe it's racist, but it's good kind of racism then. And former New Zealand leader Jacinda Ardern and her family have emigrated. They're not the only ones. She's fleeing in exile to Australia. She ruined New Zealand as prime minister and gets abused verbally public anywhere she goes there. Now she's fleeing to get away from it. Well, partially is the Kiwis deserve it because they let her go. Maybe they should have locked her in an oubliette while she was still the prime minister because, she was already doing bad stuff then. But we still have more news. This is, of course, Israel delenda est. Israel has to be destroyed. I'm gonna change to a different browser. Let's go have a look. So, while Israel exists, we can have no peace or sanity in the world. So, of course, there's this case of the Marine who says nobody wants to fight for Israel, and the cops and a U.S. Army veteran, Senator Cheney, broke his arm. So yeah, this is America. Like, you want to die for Israel, or we will manhandle you. That's what America is. The bastion of freedom and all that stuff. You're free to do whatever you want as long as you die for Israel. Brian McGuinness, so the protesters who resisted Capitol Police and got hauled out, has been exposed as an ardent pro-Islam, pro-Hamas, and pro-illegal alien mouthpiece. What a disgrace! This guy thought he had everybody fooled. See, so he is a Muslim, so you should go die for Israel then. That's what it means. Trump says Congress is becoming anti-Semitic and it isn't serving the Jewish lobby well enough. I'm not gonna play the whole thing because it's like, so I was hoping it was a short. Okay, let's listen like 15 seconds.
As President of the United States, I will always support Jewish Americans, and I will always be a friend and a champion to the Jewish people. I have been. And I will say, if you go back 10, 12, 15 years ago at the most, the strongest lobby in Washington was the Jewish lobby. It was Israel. That's no longer true.
I think maybe this is an old clip, or at least he said some similar stuff before. But yeah, so that's what he cares about. That's what the American politicians care about, right? Diddling kids and sending you to die for Israel. And you're not gonna vote your way out of it. Less than a month after being elected, Tim Sheehy traveled to Israel to record an ad for AIPAC. He just broke Brian McGuinness's arm for saying nobody wants to die for Israel or fight for Israel. Yeah. At least, I have to give him the respect that he actually did some of the dirty work himself, like, breaking the guy's arm and not just telling his minions, like, take him out, break his arm. Interesting message from God. Some people pointed out it's not that God, but maybe it's Odin. But yeah, there's a crow or something, and he's removing the Israeli flag from the pole somewhere. I don't know where that is, but like, it's quite interesting if this is genuine. Like, of course, it could be AI or something. You can never be sure nowadays. A new CIA declassifies document detailing Jewish plots for world domination, taking secret control of global finance, dominating the media, flow of information, fueling conflicts between nations, pushing the world towards a major war between the United States and Russia, increasing political chaos and anti-Semitism, mixing races to weaken nations of Europe and America, gradually taking control of political and economic institutions. And I think speech of Rabbi Emanuel Rabinovich. I think Grok or something said this is from Eustace Mullins's book from like the 50s, and that is, a fake document. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but maybe it's fiction, but it seems to be becoming reality. This is alarming. Footage shows Israeli forces turning Gaza Stadium into a mass concentration camp with executions. Hundreds of civilians detained, including women and children. Human rights groups have described these acts as crimes against humanity. So, not sure whether this is true. It might be fabricated, this stuff. It could be something older, so, or maybe it is true. But, well, we know that, Israel does nasty stuff there. Friends all around the world, I hope you understand why we must liberate Taiwan. So it's of course some Chinese propagandist, let's put it that way. This war against Zionism isn't really limited to West Asia, it spreads to East Asia too. This genocidal ideology must be defeated for world peace to be restored. So yeah, thank you, Taiwan. Stand with us. Taiwan is donating 200,000 for food packages, hygiene supplies, and essential equipment for Israelis affected by the deadly Iranian regime attack on Beit Shemesh. So yeah, if Taiwan is siding with Israel, then yeah, I guess I would rather support the CCP, although holding my breath to do it, but still. But there is no worse regime or government than Israel. Jews have been kicked out of several cities in Guatemala after locals accused them of damaging local water sources. Like poisoning wells. Jews say the accusations are fabricated. They aren't being forced out for no reason. Yeah, they never do anything. They are always kicked out, but they're always innocent. Netanyahu using the difference, the tyrants of Tehran target civilians. We target the tyrants of Tehran to protect civilians. And Candice Owen said, you murdered 3,000 Americans on 9/11, for starters. And of course, lots of people were triggered by this, but I don't know if anybody claims she's a liar. They called her nasty words, but did they call her a liar? California Governor Gavin Newsom compared Israel to an apartheid state and said America should reconsider its support. So I commend his comment. Like, of course, like I wouldn't vote for him or anything because it doesn't really matter if you're Democrat or Republican. They serve the same master. But like, at least it's good that they have to change their rhetoric, but still, like, let's say this guy became the president, he would still serve Israel. That's if Israel still exists at that point. Hopefully it won't. But it's still good. At least they have to pretend. That's something. It means they're worried. And Dan Crenshaw lost to Steve Toth in the primary in a major upset. So it's like, yeah, Crenshaw also was very adamant Zionist, but such a win. So Steve Toth, I will proudly stand with Israel and the Jewish people. Israel can't wait until Iran has turned the Middle East into a nuclear wasteland. They did the right thing, the right way, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it doesn't really, different face, same shit. And David Irving, they removed him from YouTube. He's, of course, a historian who, among other things, wrote about the mustache man's regime. So they don't like him. They removed him from YouTube, so we built our own platform. 150 hours of David Irving lectures, interviews, and talks, now streaming free at irving.video. No algorithms, no gatekeepers, no takedowns. Okay, irving.video. Maybe I should have a look at some point. Update on my post, appeal to decision there. So this is violent speech on Twitter, Appalachian Liberty. So he said, Israel would be easy to destroy. Just quit paying their bills for them, defending them when they start a new war. Yeah, so this is violent speech now. And just for contrast, these posts are apparently fine and not restricted in any way, though. So left is right, we need white genocide, we need white genocide, we need white genocide. So that's fine. But like just saying that, basically starve Israel of resources, that's hateful and bad and stuff. That's, Twitter, free speech. And Franz Ferdinand, the band, not the person who died 100 years ago, attack IDF for using Take Me Out in propaganda video. This makes us both nauseous and furious. These warmongering murderers are using our music without our consent. So for one, I'm going to side with Israel. I think it's very appropriate for Israel to use Franz Ferdinand if they, when they start a world war. I would allow that for them. Like, if you don't want them to do that, don't name your band Franz Ferdinand, because, it was the guy who was assassinated in World War One when, which started the whole war. Damn it. Just wait a moment. I have to open this tab to see the rest of it. I have to open it somewhere else. Oops. All right. Okay. So let's go here. Put this first. Psychologist Stanley Milgram found that 80% of the population do not have the psychological or moral resources to defy authorities' order, no matter how illegitimate the order is. Therefore, only 20% have critical thinking capacity, which explains a lot. Yeah. And, for one, it means that democracy can never work, really, because most people don't have they just don't have what it takes, basically, to, make informed decisions. And Jimmy Dore says, this explains COVID. Some of the smartest people I know still cling to the official lies about COVID without applying 1 second of critical thinking. Yeah, among other things. And Leonard Joni says, this proves my theory that only 20% of human beings actually have souls. Yeah, I think she has a point too. Okay, but let's finally move. Well, actually, that was supposed to be already. Well, you can take that whatever, but it's gaming and entertainment. I didn't have any good section for that. But let's go to gaming, entertainment, IT, and now there's lots of AI-related news too, how AI is retarded or making things more retarded. The official Syrian government account was asking for Yuri hentai links, apparently, so lesbian hentai, basically. I thought this was hentai, so this is the Syrian account. Black Lagoon is not hentai, however, there is a non-zero chance of hentai getting posted by our member Yuki. Link. I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. The Syrian government is asking us for hentai links. So, I was like, wait, what? But isn't, that's the Syrian government that's currently, a puppet of Israel, so the new government, so I guess. But maybe it's still slightly based. It's talking about is like, who is this guy, like, using this account? I wonder if whether they were fired or something. Let me explain what just happened, because I don't think people understand how insane this is. A woman asked ChatGPT for legal help. It told her to fire her real lawyer. She did. Then it wrote a 40-plus court filing citing laws that don't exist, cases that never happened, judges that never ruled. The other side spent $300,000 responding to completely made-up legal documents. And AI hallucinated an entire legal career nobody noticed for months. OpenAI is now being sued for $10 million. Okay, that shouldn't be on the AI. That they should sue themselves for being retarded. I don't think that's, it's like, you ask a 3-year-old child, like, oh, what are you looking at in the sky? And it's like, oh, I saw UFOs and Jesus and Buddha and Muhammad, and they saw together that we have to build a big ark out of used toilet paper, and then people start building a ark out of used toilet paper, and then later when they ask the kid, and it's like, wait, like, God didn't come when we built the ark, and it's like, oh, well, I just made it up. It's like, oh my God, it's the kid's fault. It's like, why are you retarded? So this is the same company just signed a deal with Pentagon. They can't even stop their AI from faking court cases. Well, if you use AI, you should know that sometimes they just make shit up. Like sometimes they actually, get information very well, correct and stuff. But like this woman is retarded, but then the other ones, like I don't know. Maybe we deserve AI because we are so retarded as a society. OpenAI's head of robotics just resigned because the company is building a lethal AI weapons with no human authorization required. Read that again. Lethal autonomy without human authorization. But surely there's a human authorizing the building of these weapons, and shouldn't it be disauthorized or unauthorized then? Person who built the robots is telling you should quit because there are no guardrails on who they kill. This is the same company that won't let ChatGPT say a swear word. They put safety filters on your prompts, but none of them are kill chain. Scary. Yeah, so that's her. Caitlin Kalinowski. I resigned from OpenAI. I care deeply about robotics team and the work we built together. This wasn't an easy call. AI has an important role in national security, but surveillance of Americans without judicial oversight and lethal autonomy without human authorization are lines that deserve more deliberation than they got. This was about principle, not people. I have deep respect for Sam and the team, but I'm proud of what we built together, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Microsoft filed a patent for AI-assisted Xbox feature. It would let AI or trained human helpers briefly take over your game when you're stuck on a tough part such as hard boss or puzzle. The aim to replace pausing the game or searching YouTube tutorials, making the game more accessible. I sort of like the idea of trained human helpers. It just means somebody's gonna hack your game and fuck things up over for you or something. Or maybe it's like if the game has like a delete game function within game, then they go to your take over your game and go delete your files or something. I don't know. This is just so retarded. Cloud Code deleted developers' production setup, including its database and snapshots. 2.5 years of records were nuked in an instant. So the code deleted, like why did it? I don't know, like maybe I should have looked deeper into it, but it just sounds so weird. Like how can it, what don't they have like some backup copy of it, of the information? Or did deliberately make sure there's no backup, like the AI conspired against the people? It's weird. EI has removed a disturbing user-created household from the Sims 4 gallery that depicted Jeffrey Epstein with several child Sims dressed only in towels and bathrobes. The content was flagged by players, taken down quickly after widespread reports. Hey, I think that's why Sims exists, so you can make, offensive and stupid stuff like this. Google opens Android app distribution, cuts Play Store fees after epic antitrust loss. So Google lost in court, appealed, lost again, went to the Supreme Court, got turned down, now has to let third-party app stores onto Android, making it easier for censored and banned apps to finally be allowed on App Store without side loading. So is this like a compromise because they were supposed to ban quote-unquote side loading, that you can only have approved apps? So is it like you in September or something? So is it that you still cannot this change is going to be that you only can use App Store apps, but you can have much more freedom what kind of apps there are. So if that's the case, I don't think that's good either, but better than nothing. Capcom removes Enigma DRM for Resident Evil 4 Remake. DRM caused huge performance issues. It was added 28 days ago. Wait, didn't Resident Evil 4 Remake come out like 3 years ago or something? And did they add DRM like just recently and then took it out because it sucked? I'm confused. Let's reload some of this stuff. And Studio Kara accidentally attached a full 4K Evangelion Asuka short film to take down emails sent to fans posting cam rips from a private screening. People were banned from filming the event only short and faced copyright strikes that could get the YouTube challenge terminated. So yeah, that's like weird. So they accidentally, like, they didn't want anybody to see. They made a short, like a Evangelion movie, and didn't want anybody to see it. But if you shared a freaking image from it, they're gonna sue you. That's like, I don't know how the fuck is that even legal. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me that you have right to have a, let's say, I don't know. I don't wanna make any examples, but it's like. But, and then they accidentally, quote unquote, I don't know if it's accidental or not, posted the whole movie to like emails sent to people, and of course it was leaked on Twitter. Like I watched it there on Twitter before it was deleted, and I thought that the movie sucked. So yeah, I guess I wouldn't want to have people watch it. But now they're gonna say they're gonna upload it on YouTube, or maybe it's there already, so everybody can see it. But yeah, I thought it sucked. But of course, I'm not like the biggest Evangelion fan. I've just seen the original series like more than 20 years ago, and I don't know about the other remakes for and all that stuff, if they're better or worse or something. So some of the humor may not be that I don't get it or something. And warning to all anime Twitter posts: do not post any images or videos from the Asuka special movie that recently came out. You will get a copyright strike, and that puts your account in risk of getting perma-banned. So yeah, like you get banned for talking about, like, they fuck up and you basically talk about them fucking up or show a picture. I can understand if you share the whole movie, like, yeah, okay, then you might get into trouble, but it shouldn't be, they shouldn't have any right, you just post a few pictures. That shouldn't, they shouldn't have any right to, nuke your account over that. That's bullshit. I fucking hope that Studio Kara goes bankrupt for the way they are acting. And Nintendo is suing U.S. government over tariffs. Nintendo of America filed a lawsuit seeking refunds with interest for tariffs paid since February 1st, 2025 on imported goods as consoles and accessories. The complaint calls the executive tariffs unlawful under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. So I don't know, not sure how I feel, because I dislike both institutions, Nintendo and the U.S. government. So maybe I hope both suffer. I just hope they have fun and suffer the consequences. The Abased is announced is an upcoming Bible-inspired action RPG where players control Elias, a leper enforcing faith by slaying giants. Okay, this soon sort of interesting actually. I'm intrigued to have a look when it comes out, if it's actually a decent game. And of course, I'm wondering what sort of propaganda it might have in it. Like, does it, because you're fighting against giants, makes me think of David and Goliath, like Israel first or something, or. But yeah, there aren't enough decent Bible-based games. A Stellar Blade developer Shift Up is reportedly moving toward full independence from Sony. The Korean studio is actively hiring for global publishing role for self-published future titles, including the announcement of Stellar Blade sequel across consoles and PC. So that's good. So Sony is a cancerous company as well, so it's good for Shift Up. But I think Shift Up is a stupid name. Okay, Fallout 2 had a perk called Child Killer. To earn it, you had to murder at least 3 children in game. This image was made, but even for Fallout 2 pre-Bethesda, this was too much, so the image, although real, wasn't in the game. Fallout 2 was almost banned in Europe because of the child killing. They couldn't record it, so they simply removed all children from the game in the European release. As players of later Fallouts know, beginning with Fallout 3 after Bethesda bought it and put their stamps on it, children in Fallout are unkillable, much of the annoyance to some players. It has also been noted that this image is slightly conservative coded. Old boy is kicking a pregnant woman in the stomach, trying to induce an abortion. Since the perk is child killer, this message inducing an abortion is killing a child, which of course it is. So yeah, it's already back then people wanted to censor games, and I remember because when I think it's already in Fallout 1, I think the EU or the European version didn't have children, but like my cousin who bought the game, he bought I think he had the American version, and we could actually have children that we could kill. I don't remember if we even ever killed any, but I think the option should definitely be there. It's a freaking video game. If that triggers you, never fucking play a video game. The creator of the Clair Obscur Academy forced to change title of comic series after legal threat from Clair Obscur Expedition 33 lawyers. Despite using the name before the game's release, the artist lacks the funds to properly fight the legal challenge. So yeah, this seems wrong to me. And Clair Obscur is like some, art, art style, a way of painting or something like that, hundreds of years old, so they shouldn't be able to um, to copyright it. Okay, I understand it can be confusing now because Clair Obscur is not like a common name, at least outside of France, maybe, but then again, I don't think it's unless they can somehow point out that the comic artist try to ride the wave of the success of the video game or something, but I don't think that's the case here. Of course, I might be missing some relevant information here, but it just reminds me of when Mojang, the company that made Minecraft, they had the card game Scrolls. And then Bethesda, they wanted to sue them because of Elder Scrolls, because apparently only Bethesda is allowed to use the name Scroll now. It's like fucking retarded. Like, end this fucking legalist capitalism now. Not that I believe the guy. What was this? Damn it. Okay, let's go to the other browser for a moment again. No. Okay, this is just, replying to this Clair Obscur stuff. So, not that I believe the guy, but I would like to see some proof of that papers too. Anyway, that aside, how can we get the name of an ARC technique that was existed since the Renaissance to get trademarked? I understand that the devs, lawyers, / whatever POV and the matter, but this seems way out of line. So, is Clair Obscur is chiaroscuro? Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, it's the Italian term. This is the French name. Use of strong contrast between light and dark, usually both contrasts affecting a whole composition, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't think they should be able to trademark it, even though it's not a very common word. You don't hear it in everyday conversation, but I've certainly heard chiaroscuro before. And XQC, who is some streamer, thinks GTA should cost $800. It's an $800 product these days. You pay 60 or 80 and you get fucking nothing. This shit's gonna be 1,000 hours of content. It's even if that's true, it's still $80 is still too much. And also there's the basic argument of quantity over quality, but clearly this guy doesn't care. But it's just to point out how retarded, how absurd, that's the word I'm looking for, that he's saying should cost $8,000, $800 because your average dude with your average job, maybe they make $1,000 a month. So if they buy GTA 6 and it costs this much, they cannot basically pay rent that month. It's like, how, like this guy is of course some millionaire, so like he's completely lost. Like, of course he's saying it partially polemically, I assume, but it's like how absurd. It's like I when I see comments like this, I really like my support for both mass immigration, third world immigration into his country or his community, and like for communism. They increase my support of this, because I want people like this to suffer. I want, these third world immigrants or communists to, basically go enrich him, because he's so out of touch with reality of, how much of a, significant amount of money this is. And no fucking video game should cost $80, no matter how good. And yeah, High Guard will go offline March 12th, so it's 2 days from now. And I consider, like, should I play it a little bit before it goes? But it's like, I really don't have the time. I have better stuff to do with my life than play High Guard, because it's free. And PC Gamer just, a month ago said High Guard didn't flop, and well, it did, because it's going offline. And Accursed Farm, so Scott Ross, the saint of gaming, says High Guard, and a game with paid microtransactions is being disabled. I'm glad I'm not collecting signatures for Stop Killing Games anymore, since some people would equate game quality with whether you're entitled to consumer rights or not. Not seeing the broader problem. Yeah, it has microtransactions, so some people have actually paid for this crap for something, and it's money stolen. But I guess, buying stuff doesn't mean that you own it anymore. And then the last story is, last and least, the 71-year-old Denzel Washington has been cast to play the legendary Carthaginian general who almost brought Rome to its knees. Hannibal, who was of Punic origin, Eastern Mediterranean, was in his 30s when he crossed the Alps in a 38,000 infantry and 8,000 cavalry and 38 elephants. So yeah, no, he wasn't. Hannibal wasn't black. Isn't this? Wasn't he Semitic? So isn't this anti-Semitic then? And also, yeah, he wasn't old. He wasn't an old boomer. So this is just retarded. Like, Carthago delenda est. I wholeheartedly believe that Rome was in the right, but Hannibal is still somebody who should be respected, because he was very good military leader and stuff, and so yeah, you have to respect a proficient enemy and stuff. So they shouldn't disrespect the character in this way. But that's the last piece of news for this week. So yeah, let's see what happens a week from now with the war and everything, and what other retarded stuff will we come across. But I'm Adventure Argonaut. I thank you for watching, and bye bye.